Greetings, my dear friend. I am very happy that you are watching my video, and I will be even happier if you subscribe to my channel. This will make me even happier. Let's get started. A notification blinked on my phone screen. Cassandra, my wife, had made a Valentine's Day reservation for us. It was unusual. I was typically the one to organize these kinds of things. Still, I appreciated the gesture. But when evening arrived, all I received was a short message from her saying she had to stay late at the office. Not long after, something peculiar happened. I was casually browsing through my phone when I came across a new WhatsApp status from Mitchell, Cassandra's colleague. It read, "No one spoils you like a sister can." The accompanying image was a dimly lit dinner setting at an elegant restaurant, complete with a rich-looking dessert and a caption, "Sweet night, sweeter kiss." In the picture, Mitchell leaned toward A. Cassandra, who was smiling, her head angled affectionately in his direction. She was wearing the necklace I'd given her that morning. Beside them sat the exact bottle of wine I'd surprised her with. I recognized the venue immediately. It was the same romantic spot where we'd made so many memories, where I had proposed to her even. In the past, I would have reacted on impulse, called her, demanded to know the truth. But this time, all I felt was an ache of exhaustion. When she eventually returned home, I was seated in the kitchen, casually eating a mango. She's severely allergic, so we'd made a point to never bring mangoes into the house. She blinked in surprise upon seeing me still awake, then silently passed me a small gift box. Inside was an exquisite Patek Philippe watch. "Happy Valentine's Day, babe," she said, her tone light. It wasn't that she was selfish. She'd always known how to give. That had been her nature. Yet what truly disturbed me wasn't the photo, or even the wine. It was a message I'd received earlier from the restaurant owner. He was an old friend from college, someone who knew both of us well. He'd called to laugh about how impressed he was that we were still going strong as a couple. He invited me to try a new dessert they were offering and joked about finally incorporating mango into the menu. I had asked if the dessert contained mango. He'd reassured me that it didn't. I agreed to come by sometime. This was before Cassandra texted saying she'd be working late. Later that night, restless, I kept checking my phone. I saw Mitchell's post again. Same venue, same wine, her necklace catching the restaurant's warm light. But this time I noticed a detail I had missed before. The cake clearly had a mango center. She shouldn't have been able to eat that. But I didn't say anything. I didn't want to start an argument. Instead, I ordered more mango, something I hadn't done in years, and enjoyed it, slowly, as if reclaiming a part of myself. Afterward, I stood up and told her, "I'm going to bed, unless you need something." She reached for me, her expression uncertain. "Nolan, it's Valentine's Day." I looked at her, my voice calm. "Yes? And?" Her eyes narrowed a bit. She stepped closer, a teasing smile forming. "You're seriously going to sleep so early on a night like this?" Cassandra had always had a poised, reserved beauty. After college, the glasses she began wearing gave her a sharp intellectual presence that only added to her aloof charm. But tonight something felt off. There was a faint smell of smoke clinging to her clothes. She leaned in to kiss me, but I moved away. "I had mango," I said plainly. "You'll react." Then I turned, walked into the bedroom, closed the door behind me, and locked it. Lying in bed, my phone lit up with a call from my supervisor. "You're really accepting the offer?" she asked, skipping the small talk. I chuckled. "If I back out again because of Cassandra, go ahead and fire me." She laughed. "You'd better not. If you do, I expect you to show up with your head hanging low." The promotion was significant. Better salary, more prestige, but it involved constant international travel. I'd turned it down 3 years ago, knowing Cassandra wouldn't cope well with my being away so often. It had taken me more than half a year just to hold her hand. Back in school, my friends always mocked how withdrawn she seemed. They thought she was cold, too serious. I'd always replied, "She saved my life." During a devastating earthquake in middle school, chaos broke out as students rushed to evacuate. I was near the exit when I tripped over a chair leg. As the crowd surged forward, she turned back, cutting through the stampede to help me stand. She shielded me with her body until we got outside. Later, I asked her, "Weren't you scared? You could have died. Wasn't everything you'd worked for at risk?" She seemed taken aback, but answered softly, "I didn't think about that. In that moment, I just knew. I didn't want to die alone." That was who she was, someone who instinctively chose others, no matter the risk. But now, I couldn't help wondering, had she finally chosen someone else? I had never doubted her before. Yet even the truest things can erode slowly. My supervisor seemed to sense something in my silence. "People make mistakes," she said. "It's easier to cling to old wounds than fix what's broken. But Nolan, if you ever feel the need to change course, don't be afraid. Starting over takes courage." She gave a light laugh before adding, "Me, I'm perfect. But you're human. So don't screw up. You start in 3 days. First stop, Argentina. We don't have room for hesitation." The following morning, I left early to wrap up things at the office. Cassandra was sitting in the living room, her face blank, lips slightly swollen, maybe from the mango, maybe from something else. As I walked past, she reached out and held my wrist. "Are you mad because I couldn't be with you last night?" she asked defensively. "I told you I had to stay late at work. The company's on the brink of going public. Do you have any idea how hard it's been for me as a woman to climb the ranks? Every decision I make is under a microscope. I have to set the standard. You used to say you supported my ambitions. So why are you backing away now?" For years, I kept quiet about how emotionally distant she could be. Even when she had no idea I'd been hospitalized, even when she ignored my calls, I said nothing. But everything changed the day I went to pick her up from work. She was sitting in the passenger seat, touching up her lipstick when her phone rang. Her voice immediately softened into something sweet and intimate. That was the first time I heard her mention the name Mitchell. In that moment, it clicked. She was never too busy to talk. She just chose not to open that part of her world to me. I leaned back and muttered under my breath, "That's it, Cassandra. I'm done." Before the words had even finished leaving my mouth, her phone lit up again. She glanced at it, gave me a look tinged with guilt, then answered anyway. It was Mitchell. "Come get me," he whined through the speaker. "It's freezing out and I don't want to get out of bed. If I'm late, I'll lose money." Without missing a beat, her whole demeanor shifted. "Afraid of the cold?" she teased, laughing. "You? The guy who climbs icy mountains for fun?" Then she sighed, still smiling. All right, I'll pick you up. But you owe me breakfast." I let out a bitter chuckle, and as if to pour salt on the wound, Mitchell added, "Oh, and tell Nolan thanks for me. Dinner at his place last night was great. I even borrowed one of his staff. I'll send something over." Cassandra's expression faltered. Guilt flickered across her face as she turned slightly, lowering the call volume like it was second nature. I almost laughed again. How absurd it all felt. I shook my head and started to walk away. But she ended the call quickly and chased after me. "Mitchell had a client dinner and forgot to make a reservation," she said, breathless. "I gave him ours. It was just business, you know that, don't you?" She said it like it should all make sense, like that explanation was enough. But that wasn't where it ended. Later, when I told her I wasn't feeling well and asked if she could make me some porridge, she slipped on her coat and said, "Mitchell doesn't have any food at home. I'm going over to cook for him." I just stood there, frozen, unsure whether I should ask what exactly they were to each other, or why she would drop everything for him while I lay sick on the couch burning up. But I never got the chance to say a word. She was out the door before she even noticed how bad I looked. It was a jarring contrast to the girl I used to know. Back in high school, if I looked pale or missed lunch, she'd snap at me with that sharp voice of hers. Then, like clockwork, she'd show up during break with hot rice cakes and say, "Eat. If I don't look after you, who will?" At work, my boss dumped a stack of files on my desk. "Finish all this in 3 days," he barked, "or hand me your resignation." I stayed late, drowning in paperwork, and eventually checked my phone. A lawyer had sent over the first draft of the divorce papers. Outside, a blizzard was in full swing. I jumped into a cab and headed straight to Cassandra's apartment. When I reached her floor, the building had just lost power. I frowned and flicked on my phone's flashlight. Right then, a coworker messaged me. He sent a link along with a hesitant question. "Isn't this the concert you've always talked about?" Confused, I tapped the link. It opened to Mitchell's social media, photos, videos, all of them featuring Cassandra. Apparently, they'd known each other since high school. He'd followed her to college, and now he worked at her firm. His bio read, "Being hopelessly in love with her isn't a privilege, it's a fact." I played one of the videos, and suddenly everything clicked. It showed Cassandra and Mitchell at a metal concert, lights flashing around them as they held hands, kissed, completely lost in each other. My phone slipped from my grip and hit the floor, shattering on impact, right as the wave of betrayal and heartbreak hit me like a punch to the chest. We'd spent most of our lives together, and in that one instant, I realized I'd never really known her. Through the glass of her office, I heard soft sobs. Cassandra's voice broke. "I'm sorry, but this can't happen." A man replied gently, "I can't stop how I feel. I like you. Why is that wrong?" He pulled her into a tender embrace, one arm around her waist, the other wiping her tears. Mitchell kissed her cheek, sorrow etched into his features. His hands moved to her neck, threading softly into her hair. Then they kissed, slow, deep, in the darkness of that powerless room. And then, as if on cue, the lights came back on. They froze, illuminated now, and saw me standing in the doorway. Mitchell reacted first. "Nolan, wait! It's not what it looks like." "I just love her too much," he stammered. "None of this is her fault." Cassandra turned slowly, her lips still glistening, her expression stunned. "Nolan," she whispered, "why are you here?" She asked the question. I met her eyes with steady indifference, then turned to Mitchell with a polite expression. Without a hint of warning, I slammed my fist into his jaw. As his knees buckled, I grabbed his shirt, yanked him toward me, and glared into his stunned face. "That was for having to look at you." I've known many conceited women in my life, but this was the first man I'd met who wore arrogance like an expensive suit. It made me sick. He parted his lips, maybe to justify himself, maybe to lie, but I didn't give him the chance. I drove my fist into his stomach. He doubled over, fell to the floor, wheezing like a broken instrument. Cassandra stood there, stunned into stillness as if her mind had frozen. She began to speak, but before she could finish a single word, I struck her across the face with the flat of my hand. She clutched her cheek, eyes glistening, her expression carved from pain and disbelief. I slid off my wedding band, saying nothing, and tossed it toward her like it was garbage. It bounced off her and dropped to the ground, and only then did she begin to cry in earnest, her tears cutting paths through her flushed skin. "Nolan, wait," she begged. "Just give me a chance to explain." But I didn't let her continue. I thrust the divorce papers toward her, pages already printed, signature ready. "It's over, Cassandra. We're done." With her pride shattered, she ran after me as I strode out of the office. "Nolan, please, just listen to me." Her voice cracked as she chased me through the lobby, eyes from all corners watching our collapse. I waved down a cab, set on vanishing into the frost of the evening. Snow spun down from above as she flung herself against the door, keeping me from closing it. "There's nothing between us," she cried, her voice shaking. "He's a child. He doesn't know what he's doing." "I was only trying to—" I cut her off again, my voice flat and cold. "Sure. So part of the tutoring plan includes kissing lessons?" Her face crumbled. Her tear-filled eyes searched mine like a drowning swimmer reaching for shore. "Please," she whispered, "don't look at me like that. Not you. We've been together for over 10 years. I don't know how to live without you." Her voice dropped lower. "Mitchell." He meant nothing. It wasn't planned. It just happened. She didn't get to finish. A voice rang out from the lobby. "Cassandra! Mitchell's on the roof. He says he's going to jump." She turned instinctively, releasing the door, her body pivoting toward the building. I let out a bitter laugh and slammed the cab door shut. I didn't look back, not even once. Through the mirror, I caught a glimpse of her taking a few uncertain steps after the cab, then turning away and running inside. I closed my eyes. Once the fury faded, an emptiness crept in like frostbite. The cab driver glanced at me. "You okay, son?" he asked softly. I wiped at my eyes and turned away, staring out at the city. When I got back to the apartment, I began packing. Before long, both our families called, hers first, then mine. I couldn't help but think. Even with a suicidal lover on the roof, she still found time to pull our parents into this mess. 10 years together. Our lives had tangled into one complicated knot, impossible to unravel without damage. And yet all my father said was, "Do what you need to find peace." Once I'd zipped up the last bag and opened the door, she was there. Cassandra stood in the hallway, wrecked, like a child caught sneaking in past curfew. Her hand lifted toward mine, trembling. "Nolan," she murmured, "please, let me explain. Don't leave." I said nothing. She broke down into sobs. "Hit me, scream at me, anything but this silence. Don't look at me like I'm a stranger." Her hands grabbed at the suitcase, trying to anchor me in place. "We were supposed to grow old together. Our parents are waiting for us in Beijing for New Year's. You can't just disappear. My dad misses you. So does your mom." I let out a long breath, staring at her as though from miles away. "What do you want me to do, Cassandra?" She dropped to the floor, clutching my leg, her tears soaking into the fabric. "Give me a chance. Just one more. I swear I'll fix everything." I remained quiet. My gaze fell to something sticking out from my suitcase, a photo from our college graduation. As I picked it up, a chill ran through me. It wasn't just the two of us in that photo. Behind us, barely visible in the shadows beneath a tree, stood Mitchell. His eyes weren't on the camera. They were on her. And Cassandra? She hadn't been looking at me. Even back then. All those memories I believed belonged solely to us. There had always been another presence. Silent. Watching. Maybe something more. She shrank beneath my gaze, waiting, as if expecting a sentence to be handed down. Then, to her surprise, I spoke. "All right." She looked up, stunned, as hope flickered through the sorrow in her eyes like morning light breaking through a storm. "You're serious, Nolan? You'd really give us another shot?" I hesitated, then gave a slow nod. "Yes," I said, my voice steady. "But there's one thing I need first." I kept my tone measured as I continued. "Do you remember our plan in high school to escape to the island someday? We never followed through. I want us to finally go. Just you and me. 5 days." Cassandra didn't flinch. She rushed forward and wrapped her arms around me. "That's all it takes?" she murmured. I nodded again, more cautiously this time. Still, doubt gnawed at me. I wasn't sure she could truly commit. And honestly, the more I thought about her history with Mitchell, the less surprised I felt. Her life had always followed a blueprint, meticulously designed by her parents. From her time in Beijing to the capital, from education to engagement, even I had been the default childhood match. Everything had been planned, secure, predictable. But when a life is so tightly controlled, it's only natural to seek escape. That's what Mitchell offered, a sharp turn off the well-worn path. He was chaos, adrenaline, and freedom all wrapped into one. Nighttime climbs up frost-covered hills, music that shook your bones until dawn, kisses beneath early morning skies. He was a full-throttle plunge into the unknown. And even someone like Cassandra, poised and deliberate, could be drawn into that whirlwind. She swore that once our trip ended, she'd be mine again, fully and completely. She'd show me I'd never grow tired of her. It felt like she was racing the clock, desperate to win me back before I could second-guess her. She dove into planning our island escape with a kind of restless excitement that reminded me of a child trying to prove their worth. Meanwhile, I drifted through social media, uninterested. Mitchell was posting constantly, each update reading like a cry for help in diary form. I watched without reacting. Then today, he posted something raw and unfiltered. "She loves me." I laughed, a sharp, unexpected sound, and typed a response. As of today, my wife and I are heading to the islands. The past is over, gone like smoke. Something had shifted. A new beginning was in motion. All I wanted now was to hold her hand and move forward. But Mitchell wasn't done. He demanded a meeting. We sat across from each other in a small cafe. His jaw clenched as he asked, "After everything, you're really taking her back? You're staying with her?" I said nothing, just gave him a faint, unreadable smile. He hit the table hard with his palm. "You're actually leaving with her. You're moving away. Why hasn't she said anything to me?" In response, I slid my fast-tracked visa across to him. My smile was thin. "Cassandra and I go way back. She pleaded for one last chance. I told her, walk away from everything and come with me and I'll forgive her." "And she agreed?" I nodded again, though my eyes didn't match the curve of my lips. Mitchell's voice cracked. "No, that can't be. I gave her everything. She told me she loved me." He was angry, sure, but underneath I could hear it, devastation. I stared right at him, unshaken. On Valentine's Day, he'd taken her, told me outright. Made sure I saw them together, like it was some twisted performance meant to crush me. But he underestimated my history with Cassandra. He thought I'd walk away. He was wrong. And now, his fury had no place to go. He lunged at me. He was smaller than me, weaker. I deflected him without effort, splashed coffee into his face, and slapped him, hard. He stumbled. I crouched down, gripped his hair, and forced him to look up at me. "You're pathetic," I said with a cold smile. "You really believed she was yours? That she loved you?" The mix of fury and heartbreak twisting his face made my stomach churn. I said it again, slowly and clearly. If Cassandra dropped everything to come with me, I'd forgive her. We'd rebuild. But if she didn't, there'd be nothing left. He didn't reply. He didn't need to. His silence said enough. Later at the airport, Cassandra stood nervously near the gate. Her eyes stayed fixed on her phone. Her mouth was tight, her posture tense. "Nolan," she whispered, "this changes things. Mitchell was in an accident. It's bad. Can we postpone the trip?" I looked at her and didn't speak. I studied her like I hadn't really seen her before. Finally, I said, "I know why you didn't come to that concert." She froze. Her lips moved as if searching for a lie, but none came. "That night," she admitted, "it was Mitchell's birthday. He asked me to come. I felt obligated." I laughed. It was bitter and hollow. "That band was everything to me, Cassandra. I'd talked about them for years. On my birthday, when you asked what I wanted, I said I wished I could see them live. You got upset, asked why I didn't say I wanted you there with me." I paused, voice low and strained. "I was 18. All I wanted was to be there with you. That was my wish. Don't you remember?" "I do," she said quietly. "But I went alone," I said. "And I didn't realize," I added, "that my wife was in the same crowd that night, kissing someone else." During the concert, I had even sent her a message, reminding her to grab a bite, but she never got back to me. Cassandra's voice trembled, edged with worry, almost like a plea. "We can go another time." I cut in, steady and resolute. "No, we can't." That was the end of it. The band wouldn't perform again. There would be no encore, no rescheduled dates. I met her eyes, held them, and repeated, "There won't be another time." We stood there, the silence between us thick with everything unsaid. Eventually, I exhaled and gave a slight nod, my tone softening as I motioned for her to leave. "Go on. You're his boss and he's just been in an accident. It'd look suspicious if you didn't go." I offered her a small, bittersweet smile, our eyes locked. I remembered the fierce girl who, at just 18, had insisted we run off to the islands. "We'll just catch the next one," I said. Cassandra looked as if she'd just been pardoned. She turned and ran into the blizzard, vanishing into the snow and sleet toward Mitchell. I took my airline ticket, tore it clean in two, and let the scraps fall into a trash can. Then I walked to the self-serve kiosk and printed a new itinerary. This one pointed me toward Argentina. Cassandra woke in the embrace of a man, his lips grazing her cheek like a whisper. Something was wrong. This wasn't Nolan. Just the day before, she had rushed to the hospital, frantic, only to learn that Mitchell's supposed emergency had been a lie. Her initial reaction had been fury. But Mitchell, eyes rimmed red, had quietly said, "Cassandra, I've loved you for so long. Just tonight, stay with me one more time. Please." A voice inside her screamed to leave. Nolan. She could only imagine how broken he must be. They had been inseparable since childhood, growing up together, building a life, a home, and a marriage that had lasted 7 years. Everything had once felt unshakable. She couldn't just walk away from Nolan. But the way Mitchell looked at her, those pleading eyes, the way his fingers brushed her arm, it was hard to turn away. A heavy dread took root in her chest. That sensation you get in a dream when you're about to fall, fast and far. Then, like a flash, Nolan's face filled her mind. The way he looked at the airport before she walked away. A mix of heartbreak and acceptance. It hadn't felt like a pause. It had felt like a farewell. She jerked upright, scrambling for her phone. Startled, Mitchell sat up. "What is it? What's wrong?" The phone was dead. Her heartbeat thudded in her ears as she stared at the black screen, willing it to light up. Her distress was written all over her face, and Mitchell noticed. At last, the screen flickered to life and instantly rang. Her mother's name. She picked up. Before Cassandra could even speak, her mother shouted into the line. It took a second to register the words. Nolan had discovered everything, her affair with Mitchell, and he had laid it all out in a PowerPoint presentation, complete with screenshots and attachments. He'd sent it to everyone, friends, co-workers, family. The final slide stung the worst, a doctored wedding photo of Cassandra and Mitchell, captioned with Nolan's dark humor. "Cheers to the happy couple. May they stay childless and deceitful forever." Stunned, she checked her messages. Drenched in panic, Cassandra jumped into her car. She tore through the city's frozen streets, running lights, her mind spiraling with shame and desperation. The roads were slick with ice. She fishtailed more than once, barely avoiding collisions. Still, she kept going. She had to reach home. Nolan, kind, patient Nolan, maybe she could still salvage something. She clung to that hope as if it were the last solid thing in a collapsing world. But the house was empty. Rooms stripped bare. Closets hollow. He was gone. Her thoughts drifted to the night they packed for their island trip. She'd laughed, saying they'd be back before long. Nolan had smiled then. Quietly. Now she understood. He had been planning this for a while. It didn't seem real. After everything, their whole intertwined lives, how could he just disappear? She convinced herself that a sincere apology, a heartfelt explanation, would bring him back. He had always forgiven her before. But when she arrived at his office, a cold-faced supervisor had her escorted out by security. She managed to find one of his colleagues, who greeted her only with distance and disdain. The days blurred as she searched. She eventually learned that Nolan had accepted a new role, one that kept him constantly moving, never rooted anywhere for long. It felt intentional, a vanishing act she hadn't noticed until it was complete. Scrolling through their old messages, she noticed how the warmth had faded, the once playful back and forth replaced by gaps, silences. His social media, once full of snapshots of their life together, had been wiped of her. All that remained was a single quote. "When did we fall apart?" The moment I realized our future felt like drowning every single day. After closing the chapter on everything back home, I allowed myself time to breathe, really breathe, under new skies. Far from it all, some 22,000 kilometers away, I walked the sunlit streets of Argentina. In Buenos Aires, the air shimmered with heat and music. Tangos spilled from alleyways, and the city's faded beauty pulsed with life. It was a place that demanded you exist in the moment, and for the first time in a long time, I did. A friend had invited me to Mendoza, where the vineyards shimmered beneath the relentless summer sun, the grapevines stretching endlessly like waves of emerald. I was sipping a glass of Malbec when my phone vibrated. Cassandra's voice, hoarse and wavering, came through. "Nolan, where are you?" she asked. I let the wine linger on my tongue before replying calmly, "Far away. What do you want?" "If the divorce papers are ready, send them over. If not, don't call me again." Her breathing hitched. Just as I went to hang up, she murmured, "I'm sorry." The words broke from her like a wounded child's cry, raw and aching. "Nolan, please, I mean it. I'm sorry. Tell me how to fix this," she pleaded. "I'll do anything. We've been together for over 20 years. Can you really walk away from all of it?" Her voice cracked. "How can you be so heartless?" A faint smirk tugged at my lips, and somehow she caught it. Her tone spiraled into panic. "Nolan, are you laughing at me?" I let out a breath, eyes resting on the deep red in my glass. "This is so like you," I said. "Thinking your pain still means something to me." "You believe your suffering will move me," I continued. "But Cassandra, have you ever considered that I don't love you anymore?" When I returned to my hometown, it was the night of New Year's Eve. The thing about people who once shared everything with you, they remember all your flaws, even the ones you've forgotten. That evening, while my family gathered around the bubbling hot pot for our reunion dinner, a knock echoed through the house. I opened the door to find Cassandra standing there. She looked worn, her hair matted, her face hollow from sleepless nights. Her eyes were dull, holding no spark, only quiet defeat. The report I'd made public had shattered both her and Mitchell's reputations. Friends who once stood by them now offered only silence. Watching their fall had felt like long overdue vindication. During the meal, hushed voices drifted from the other room. Cassandra and I hadn't spoken since that call. Outside, homes glowed with warmth and fireworks crackled across the sky. She gazed at me, her face void of hope, but not entirely empty. Her lips trembled. "We've spent every New Year's together," she said in barely a whisper. "Nolan, I still love you. I honestly don't know how to go on without you." I looked at her, and for an instant, the memory of her younger self surfaced. Cheeks pink from the winter air, sneaking out late just to tie a red thread bracelet around my wrist. I thought seeing her would reopen old scars. Instead, I felt nothing. The past months had taken me across borders and through new lives. I wasn't the same man anymore. Fireworks burst overhead. The year was slipping away, taking the cold with it. "Don't do this, Cassandra," I said softly but firmly. "It's New Year's, and seeing you like this, it repulses me." Her face drained of color. I shut the door without another word. When my parents asked who had come by, I answered plainly, "No one." I went back to the laughter and the warmth of my family, each of us competing for the last bite in the hot pot. That moment felt true. I still had them. My career took flight under a supervisor who claimed more credit than he earned. I adapted easily to constant travel, sending postcards from all corners of the world. My mother, ever amused by internet fads, affectionately dubbed me her travel frog. At the time, I was in Japan, walking toward a fireworks show with a warm mango bun in hand. Concerned as always, she called me. "Be careful, son. I heard Japan has a lot of earthquakes." I laughed gently. "It's fine, Mom." But fate had other plans. Soon after, Japan's weather agency issued a major earthquake warning for the Nankai Trough. Flights filled instantly. I became unreachable. My mother, terrified, spent the night lighting incense and praying for my safety. Cassandra saw the news. Despite everything that had happened, she booked a flight to Japan. Mitchell, still clinging to what was left of their life together, had lost his job and been blacklisted. Their relationship had turned poisonous. "Don't go," Mitchell begged. "You're making a mistake. Nolan doesn't care. He never did." But Cassandra ignored him. In a rage, she struck him with a kettle. Blood ran down his face as he screamed, "He doesn't love you! Can't you see that? I'm the only one who ever did." Cassandra said nothing. She just walked away. I eventually made it back. My flight was delayed, and just before takeoff, a call flashed on my battered phone. The number was unfamiliar. A flight attendant asked me to switch it off. I did. The call vanished from my mind. Back home, I told my family I was fine and immersed myself in work. Until one day, Mitchell showed up outside my office. He was unrecognizable. Eyes red, hair wild, shirt creased and stained. He stared at me through the glass. "Where is she?" he demanded. "Give me back Cassandra." I looked at him, unsure whether to feel pity or concern. And suddenly, the pieces aligned. Cassandra had made it to Japan before the quake hit. That call I missed. It had been from her. The echo of that disturbing call still clung to me, but I kept my calm and asked security to show Mitchell the way out. I met his gaze and said clearly, "It's irrelevant now. She's yours, not mine." It wasn't Cassandra herself who broke the terrible news. It came secondhand through her parents, who eventually contacted mine. She had found out where I was staying, a small inn off the grid. She'd tried calling, but every attempt was met with a busy signal. Assuming I was ignoring her on purpose, she decided to come in person, and that was when disaster struck. My mother, her voice low and burdened with sorrow, was the one to deliver the truth. Cassandra hadn't survived. She'd been caught under the rubble. Her legs had been mangled, the injuries severe. Doctors couldn't say if she would ever walk again. Then, almost in a whisper, my mother asked, "Will you go to her, son?" I didn't hesitate. I shook my head. "No. Whatever Cassandra and I had, it's over. There's nothing left." After the call ended, I turned to the window of a place I'd never seen before. What possibilities did this strange land hold? I was ready to discover them. And the past? Let it rest in the dust of its own collapse. Today stands untouched, a blank slate for fresh stories. I wished, quietly, honestly, that everyone might find the courage to flip the board, let the old game scatter, and start anew. Our story comes to an end here. Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for taking the time to watch. If you enjoyed this story, please check out other videos on this channel. See you soon, my dear friend.